So basically, all this is the outcomes. What critical? It's outlining or representing what critical thinking should look like. So why do we critically think, right? We critically think because we want to be fair. We want fairness, right? And we want to be fair.
Yes.
We critically think because we want to dig deep in our learning. We don't want just surface learning. So we research, we investigate. It's kind of what I was talking about on Monday. So we dig deep, we go deep into, we investigate, we ask questions, we ask why, we use, we explore, right?
Yes.
We critically think because we need a definite answer. We want to know what the answer is. So completeness, we want to be whole. We want to be, we want to make sure that all the loose ends are tied up. So we need completeness, right? We want to know that so we can move on to the next thing. We critically think because we want to be self-assured. That's breath. We want to be self-assured.
Bread in second line, first word in the second line row.
Yes.
Bread.
Yes.
What is the meaning of that?
Basically, what it really is we want self-assurance. We want to be assured.
Assured, okay.
All right. So this is why we want to make sure that we are doing the right thing. That we're building a certain level of confidence.
Okay.
We want to know that we're not going to fall off the edge.
Okay.
We want to know where we are in relation to, we don't want to be lost. We don't want to be confused. We want breath. So breath is a measurement of something. The measurement is normally not objective, it's subjective, right? So like, for instance, the relationship with your husband, the relationship with your children, the relationship with your siblings, you always are measuring that, right? You always continuously measure your relationship with the people you love and care about, your co-workers. That's breath. There's no true yardstick measurement, if you will. You understand? We can't say I love my husband 100 meters, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no measurement stick.
No measurement.
Even if we say I love my husband forever, or I love my children, what does that mean? And especially when you have arguments and fights and disagreements, you know what I mean? So
yes.
So in our relationship, even within ourselves, we try to find a measurement, and that's what breath is. So so critical thinking allows us to figure out where we are in the world in relation to ourselves, our careers, our relationships with people, our goals, right? Yes. So critical thinking helps us with that. Logicalness it allows us to make sure that we're using logic. Sometimes we think we're being logical, we're not. And yes. So we need to have critical thinking to make sure that we're actually using reason, that we're being reasonable. So sometimes we have to step back and say, you know what, I'm not being reasonable here. So I'm not being reasonable because 1, 2, 3. Precision is about preciseness, right? Being precise, a little bit different than everything else. So precision is about, okay, I want to do this correctly. So, I need to do this task so this thing works. So, what do I need to do? What am I doing wrong? I need to be accurate, right?
Yes.
Significance, critical thinking makes a significance. It makes us really wonder and think about whether what we're doing is important. Is this relevant to our lives? Is this relevant to other people's lives? Is this does this serve a greater purpose? And so critical, so sometimes we do things and we realize this don't really serve a purpose. This doesn't really serve a purpose. So critical thinking helps us figure that out. So sometimes it requires critical thinking. You have to, as a result of some really good critical thinking, having a mentor, having friends that you can use as a soundboard, you say, well, you know what? I don't want this job anymore, right? I don't want to be in this career anymore, or I don't want to live here, or I don't want to be with this person anymore, or I need to change these things about my life. That's significance. Clarity, it makes you, critical thinking will allow you to remove the blinders, because sometimes in life we are blind about certain things, and we are willfully blind, about our, especially when it comes to our loved ones, especially our children. Oh,
Yes.
he wouldn't do that. And he's been doing that for the last 15 years, but you don't have clarity, or this is the right thing, or this is okay, or you follow things that you don't fully understand. So critical thinking allows us to get clarity, make sure we fully understand what we're into in our lives. Accuracy and precision are close. It's just accuracy is more approximate. It's more in the ballpark, whereas precision is exact. Okay. So accurate, let's say you're 80% in the area, where precision, you're right there, 100%. Right?
Precise and accurate. Okay. I got it.
Right. It's almost like ballroom dancing, or these gymnastics, or that they have to be precise. They need
Yes.
precision. They don't want accuracy, right? They need precision, right? So they can get the top score. Whereas
Yes.
accuracy is, okay, I'm just good at it. I'm accurate. I'm not perfect. I'm accurate. I'm good enough to do it, right? I'm good enough to pass. Like a pilot would have to be precise, and not, you want your pilot of an airplane to be precise and not accurate. You follow me?
Yes.
You want him to be precise and not accurate. Relevance kind of falls into significance. Relevance means significance is more subjective, whereas relevance is more objective. Relevance is, what does this thing help me in complete another task? Whereas significance is more existential, right? It's more of a deeper feeling, whereas relevance is more objective. In fact, when you have SMART objectives, the R stands for relevance, right? Will this help the students do something? Will this help me do something? Something that's going to allow me to experience learning transfer or do a task, whereas significance is more of a feeling. Okay, so these are the reasons why we critically think. Now, elements of thought is the different things or tasks that we can do to critically think. We can do tasks that shows purpose, point of view, that gives us information, that allows us to see concepts, ask questions, draw assumptions, and make inferences, and understand implications, cause and effect. Okay.
Oh.
So, and all of these things will support the standards that I just explained: fairness, depth, completeness, breadth, logicalness, precision, so on. So these things support those. So if you do those things, you can reach those outcomes. Look at the standards as what you want, what is wanted, what you want, the outcome that you want. So, so as a result of critical thinking and continuously developing yourself, these things, you start to build certain characteristics or intellectual traits, which allows you to get the fairness, the depth, the completeness, the clarity, right? Through doing tasks and practicing your purpose point of view, if collecting data, concepts, asking questions, drawing assumptions, drawing inferences, understanding the implications. So you get humility, autonomy, integrity, courage, perseverance, reason, empathy, fair-mindedness. These are the things that develop over time. All right. So this is why it's so important to have experiences. This is why it's important to read, to be an avid reader, because reading is probably the one task that we can do to help us critically think, or put us in, allow us to practice understanding purpose, practice understanding points of view, practice aggregating data, evaluating, analyzing data, and comparing and contrasting concepts, asking researchable questions, drawing, understanding the assumptions from other people, drawing relevant inferences, or accurate inferences rather, understanding the implications of things. If you practice these things enough, right, then you will gain these traits of perseverance, because you're going to understand perspective. You're going to be able to understand, be able to reason better. You're going to have empathy because you're going to see things from different perspectives. You're able to see things from different perspectives. We call this a worldview, having a worldview. Fair-mindedness, you understand. And you notice it's something interesting here. You don't see the word equal. This word equal is very dangerous when it comes to intellectual thought, because equal is anything but fair, is far from fair. All right, equal is not synonymous with fair. All right, so an intellectual person does not seek equality, they seek fairness. All right, you don't ever want equality. Equality is a very bad thing, because you can be tricked with equality. The person who's oppressing you will offer you equality and still oppress you. However, if someone is your ally, they will be fair with you. And sometimes fairness is harsh, but they'll be fair with you because you're going to get more, you're going to get a better end result with fairness than you ever would get with equality. Okay. Also, with equality, somebody else is being stepped on. So under a realm of capitalism, capitalism wants people to ask for equality. They don't want people to ask for fairness, because with equality, what I can do is just shift who I discriminate against, who I oppress. I just shift that. Okay. All right. I don't want, so I've been oppressing gay people. I will give some rights to the gay people, make them feel like things are equal, and I will oppress the Native Americans, or I'll oppress the Black people, or I'll oppress women, or I'll oppress men. And that we see this happening now with the transgender movement and the Me Too movement, is that men are now being oppressed.
Yes.
Right? Because people are asking for equality. However, intellectually, you ask for fairness. Under fairness, everyone divvies up the responsibility. It's not about giving something, it's about what you're willing, the output that you're willing to provide in a fair manner, based on people's abilities and situations and circumstances. So it takes a lot more intellectual ability to be fair. You follow me? It takes a lot more intellectual capital to be fair. And a lot of people don't have that capacity, the intellectual capacity. So in turn, they want equality, or they'll provide equality, because either one, they want to continue to oppress you, or two, they don't know how to go about being fair because they're not intellectually inept. They're not intellectually inept. And we see that in our politicians all around the world. So they'll just give you equality. Well, equality just creates more oppression. Right? Because in America we have a saying, you don't hear this often, you don't hear this anymore, but when I grew up there was a saying, your rights end where the next man's rights begin. That is a statement of fairness, not equality. Your rights end where the next man's rights begin. Okay, democracy is really about fairness. A true democracy, everyone has a burden. Everyone has the burden of proof, and everyone is supposed to contribute. So America is not a true democracy. America is a republic. Is a republic because we elect people to decide what is good for us. And we the people, in our preamble of our Constitution, we the people, what happens is we the people have traded in our responsibility of maintaining a perfect union for a republic where we say, do this for us. We want to abate, or not debate, that's not the word I'm looking for. We we give away our responsibility. Okay, we give away our responsibility, and we give you our responsibility. Now you have the burden of proof, and we will just accept the input. So what happens is that brings a mindset of equality. And equality is very dangerous because the people that you turn your rights over to, or you give power of attorney to, and that's what really a republic is about. It's about providing power of attorney. Then if they're not intellectually inept, then they devalue your rights to fairness, right? In the United States, is life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is fairness. Just the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is not equality. Okay? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is not equality. That's about fairness. Life. With this life, you will work to maintain it. Liberty, we're going to provide you are responsible to making sure that you have liberty and that you ensure the liberty of other people. And the pursuit of happiness, not just happiness, you have to pursue it. That means you have to work hard for it. It's output. Equality is input. Give me, give me, give me, give me. Republic. And this is why the Roman Empire fell, because it was a give me, give me, give me mentality. And we see this in JFK's one of his most famous quotes is, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. What he was really saying is stop asking for equality and take your fairness. Because this is your burden of proof as a citizen. It's very interesting because if you look at a British passport, British nationals on their passport are called subjects. Find that very interesting language. They're subjects to the crown. Whereas American citizens are entities of them in and of themselves. And these entities have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they have the responsibility for not only themselves, but they have the responsibility for to give that, to ensure that for others. Hence democracy. Hence democracy. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It is an issue of input versus output. You don't want equality. You want fairness. Best example of this is in the NBA, which is the National Basketball Association. Everyone's complaining that the female players don't make as much as in the WNBA, doesn't make as much as the men players in the NBA. But ultimately, and structures where it comes down to talent, and talent comes down to how much money is being drawn. And talent is not just ability. Talent is appeal, whether you can get people to spend thousands of dollars for season tickets, right? So whatever organization, the NBA or the WNBA, whatever organization that can fill seats and get people to buy not only buy season tickets, but to buy the merchandising, that's going to be the individuals who make all the money. Now the NBA has been around for, I think, over 20 years now. They've had a long time to gain a fan base. Unfortunately, men and women alike are more attracted to the NBA because the NBA is much more exciting. The women haven't figured out how to get people to buy NBA merchandise or WNBA merchandise, how to get people to buy season tickets. So in this case, what happens is, this is a great example of fairness. That's completely fair. Because ultimately, the women in the WNBA have a responsibility to be talented and also entertainers. And if the men weren't entertaining, guess what? People wouldn't buy the merchandising and they wouldn't buy the season tickets. And they wouldn't buy the tennis shoes, and advertisers wouldn't sponsor them. So it's not an issue of man versus woman. It's an issue of what's more appealing. Right? So it's an issue of fairness. But if you go and you give the women the same pay as you give the men, then that would be unfair. And now we entering the realm of equity. And equity in that regard is a terrible thing, because it makes people lazy. It gives people things that they didn't earn. Fairness says so. So ultimately, all of this requires critical thinking. It requires intellectual thought. Thomas Jefferson, the father of the Declaration of Independence, he hated being the president of the United States. Hated it. And one of the things he said about democracies is that a democracy only works with a educated populace.
Yeah.
A democracy only works with an educated populace. And he knew that. And he hated it. George Washington did not want political parties. Why? Because he knew that political parties would control the masses. They would control the narrative. They would control the information. Why? Why is this important? All of these men were Renaissance men. They were very well-educated men. They were talented in many different crafts. So they had the intellectual capacity to build this great experiment called the United States of America. But they also understood that it could without intellectual depth, it won't work. So that they wrote a constitution that tried to maintain intellectual depth, to try to maintain fairness. great example is slavery. The slaves had right in the Civil Rights Acts of 1865. The Civil Rights Act of 1965 really didn't do anything more than what the Civil Rights Act of 1865 did. It was just, however, the narrative went from fairness, which was that was the spirit of the Civil Rights Act of 1865 was fairness. These people were slaves. Now they're no longer slaves, and we want them to become citizens, and they have the rights to the citizens. You didn't need a Civil Rights Act since 1965. However, we convinced the nation, particularly African Americans, through Jim Crow, through segregation, that they wanted equality. They needed equality. And through blatant racism, any effort to progress was destroyed by institutionalism and straight up violence. And this violence created this narrative of equality. Jim Crow created this narrative of equality when that was never the narrative. And the best example of this is every other minority that came to the United States. They never asked for equality. They asked for fairness. The Irish, the Italians, the Italians were discriminated against when they came to America. The Irish were discriminated against when they came to America. Chinese people were discriminated. Chinese people built the railroads in America. They were discriminated against, but these people never asked for equality. They demanded fairness. They put that output in. The Italian mafia is always given a bad rap. However, the Italian mafia was instrumental in the success of the Italian American because it demanded output instead of input. And the African American is in the condition he is in today because African Americans have been sold this narrative of equality. So hopefully so American history is a great example of why critical thinking is essential.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
So hopefully that gives you understand Paul Elder's critical thinking framework now. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you have a question, Mr. Roy? Or a statement? Mr. Roy.
A comment to everyone, Assalamu alaikum, that when can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, that when an individual takes the time out to just do a basic and constantly refresh themselves about the American experience, your scope of thinking will automatically just widen and widen and widen, because the American experience is what I could call a cocktail experience, meaning all the different ethnic groups that we see even around ourselves here had an experience in America. So the American experience, which is a recent and new experience, just 240 years old, it will give you an insight on how to think, how to move, how to, as Ms. Dr. Ray was saying, have the empathy, have the insightfulness, have the fairness, to basically look at things from an all angles approach. That's the one I like to use, by the way, an all angles approach. That is basically what I'd like to say. So the study of American history, I believe, especially in today's world, is incumbent on all of us to at least have a cursory glance and looking at it from A to Z, the times up to 1775, the American Revolution, and up. So then we'll basically have what you call the widening of our minds, the widening of our scope of things, even in our educational endeavor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah,
Really.
All angles approach. We also call that
all angles approach.
a worldview.
Exactly.
And often, that's why I said, I often say people coming from Saudi to America should be very successful, because Saudi is also a melting pot, or a cocktail, as Mr. Roy says. It's a cocktail, a melting pot, a salad, if you will. And Saudi is a great practice to be successful in America, because you can in Saudi you can meet all these different nationalities and work on your critical thinking and how to deal and interact with people. You can work on your fairness, your depth, your completeness, your breadth, your logical, your clarity, your accuracy. So you can
Exactly.
So then by doing that, you learn how to ask the right questions, how to draw the right, how to make intellectual assumptions and draw inferences and understand implications and aggregate data and understand purpose. So please don't sit on your hands while you're in melting pots. And same thing for France and Mr. Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad,
Yes, sir.
France.
Good evening, doctor. Good evening, everybody.
So when
Good
you're in these melting pots, you know,
Mhm.
these are great opportunities to practice critical thinking,
Exactly.
because the reality is we have so many distractions that want us to believe, to follow the leader, monkey see, monkey do. And this is dangerous. This is why social media is dangerous, right? I'll give you a great example. People who are leery about the vaccines, they're called anti-vaxxers.
Yes.
They get a label. So now people don't want to question the vaccine because no one wants the label of an anti-vaxxer. This is a great example of when you have a mindset of equity. Just follow the leader. Our leaders know what's best for us, and follow them. And the reality is you have to be able to have that mindset of discernment. And when you have that, discernment is, I think, the discernment is what gives you one wisdom. And you don't have to go to university. You just have to experience life and practice life. Some of the smartest people in the world never went to college. Some never even went to school. Look at the Industrial Revolution. Most of the inventors in the Industrial Revolution, most of them were not classically, traditionally educated individuals, but they created the Industrial Revolution, which is the most significant event in human history. So good question again, Zarin, about Paul Elder's critical thinking framework.
Yes, I cannot think further until I understand one thing. This is my problem. I just cannot. I have to understand, then I can go further.
So do you have an understanding of it now?
In there, yes. Yeah, I got it.
Any other questions about, so Zara is pretty much finished her modules. Good job. Any other questions about any of the reading thus far? Mr. Muhammad Aliman, did you get the new course?
No, I haven't received yet up to now.
She
Thus,
told
I'm
me,
waiting.
did you check? She told me she loaded it.
No, I just
It's called English
found
Composition.
9 is
It's called English Composition 1.
English Composition 1.
Yes, that's the name of the course. English Composition 1 in APA.
Okay, what's about its code, the number, the code?
Just look for the course that says English Composition 1 APA.
English. Okay.
Send me a message if it's not loaded, because she told me she loaded it for you.
All right.
Everyone else, Donna, Mary, Mr. Muhammad Roy.
Sir, I actually looked at my email and I didn't see. I'll get with you offline. But I think I don't know if you sent it to the old Yahoo, but I didn't see anything in my Gmail. So
Are you able to
No, I
get
didn't
into the
see it.
platform?
No, I tried getting on by going to the email as you directed me
Right.
to, and I didn't see anything. So
No.
I'll speak with
You
y'all.
had to, because we saw it the night I was with you. They sent you that email. Do you remember that email they sent you?
In my Gmail, I saw something in the Yahoo, but not the Gmail. To be honest with you.
Yeah, no,
Let me
we were
look at it.
together. They sent you the email when we were together. So
Yeah.
go back to, I think it was in your spam.
Or maybe that's where I need to look.
You have to
again.
check
Okay,
your, you have to check your spam. Check your spam. Okay,
Okay.
check your spam. Any other questions, Donna? Any questions, Donna? Miss Donna? Miss Mary, any questions?
Hi, sir. First of all, I'm sorry for joining late. I was having little questions concerning this framework itself. I asked you in private, but I will listen to the recording, whatever points you gave. And if I have questions, I will get back to you.
Yeah, I just gave an in-depth
Yes,
explanation.
sir. Sorry, I finished my work late. I came running.
So yeah, just watch this video and that's the one question that I answered.
Yes.
Any other questions? Mary, Miss Mary, any questions?
Yeah, for me, I don't have any question, but now, like when you explain this, I've get the